So at the moment, from the viewpoint of Nichiren Buddhism's teachings, we have a world that is totally in the possession of the three poisons of life. You all know it: anger, greed, and ignorance or stupidity. We see the destruction of the environment for the sake of profit, the air polluted for the sake of profit. This is the workings of the poison of greed, and also the poison of anger, the desire to dominate everyone else around you. And then, of course, we see the madness of the race to produce ever more destructive weapons, which there is a glimmer of light, thankful to say, now that human beings are beginning to see their madness, craziness. Many scientists have recently written books, come to the surface, to acknowledge how wrong they were over inventing these weapons of destruction. It's human madness when you think about it. Because these very scientists are probably fathers, grandfathers, mothers, grandmothers. They go into the laboratory, say bye-bye to their children, who they probably love deeply, and create a weapon that can destroy them in the future. It's absolute, utter, unbelievable craziness. But that is the poison of stupidity at work, isn't it? Through blindness, human blindness. However, we shouldn't be surprised as disciples of Nichiren Buddhism, because this chaotic, mad period of Mando was predicted 3,000 years ago by Shakyamuni. A world in a chaotic state in the possession of the three poisons. He predicted it. Incredible, really. However, out of it, Shakyamuni also predicted, didn't he, that the great pure law would arise. That his pure law will have become of little value, and that a great pure law would arise in this very chaotic age. Well, that's just what we see happening around us. But the ultimate truth, God's in other words, will appear. So we need have no doubt that, just as the Gosho says, and I'm always repeating because it's my favorite line, that Kosunufu will be achieved as sure as an arrow aimed at the earth can't miss the target. It will be achieved in the very nature and rhythm of universal life. It will be achieved provided we continue to do our bit. That's the point. Which, of course, we will. But at the same time, we have to go through all sorts of fights inside us in order to make sure we do continue. But it's those very fights that make us strong, happy, fulfilled, great human beings, as you know. So we established the flow of Kosunufu according to the Lotus Sutra for 10,000 years and honored into its birth. All right? So we all brave. Probably your minds are getting a bit short. So, top of page 3. Right. Here we go. Okay, thank you. Along with the turbulent changes in society, people's consciousness and worldview are also undergoing rapid transformation. In the course of human history, there have been a number of periods of historic change like the one that we are now witnessing. One such period occurred about 500 years ago with the age of great voyages that began in the 15th century. With the discovery of the Americas in 1492, the discovery of a sea route to India in 1498, the circumnavigation of the globe in 1523, and the increasingly frequent forays of European peoples to distant parts of the globe people's outlooks underwent rapid change. No sooner did a worldview become established in people's minds than it was usurped by new knowledge and understanding. With furious velocity, the map of world powers was withdrawn time and again. The age of great voyages represents a period of new adventure and discovery. With a seeking spirit, there's a misprint there. With a seeking spirit, Europeans set out in search of new lands, probing ever farther. It was a time when new things, new information, new technology, new opportunities, new issues, and new ideas made their appearance. Yet, above all, the period was marked by the emergence of a new image of humanity, a new sense of individuality. Amid these continual changes, there unfolded countless dramas. The 21st century will no doubt prove to be a new age of great voyages. It will be an age of great voyages of the spirit, an age of great voyages of life, a time of ceaseless change and transition, a time when worldviews change, a time for the cultivation of personality, a time filled with vicissitudes and the drama of life's renewal. An age of adventure and discovery now looms before us. So probably that last paragraph, I think, is the most important paragraph in this whole guidance. 21st century will no doubt prove to be a new age of great voyages. It will be an age of great voyages of spirit, an age of great voyages of life, a time of ceaseless change and transition, a time when worldviews change, a time for the cultivation of personality, a time filled with vicissitudes and the drama of life's renewal, an age of adventure when our looms before us. So, as I'm sure you know, next May, we intend holding, so far as NSUK is concerned, the first NSUK May Festival. This idea arose as a way of commemorating Sensei's visits to us in May in 1972, 1973, 1975, and just recently in 1989. And in the spirit of this guidance here, in the spirit, if you like, that the 21st century has already begun, we've decided on the theme of that May Festival, which will be Into the 21st Century, Voyage of the Spirit, Voyage of Life. Into the 21st Century, Voyage of the Spirit, Voyage of Life. So it's my feeling and that these May festivals will be our milestones, which we pass year by year into the 21st century. How long they'll go on for, I can't say, but I'm sure for at least 10 years, if not forever, for all I know. And they'll be the key collective activity aimed towards ever expanding our, if you like, sounds a aggressive word, but our penetration of society through these May festivals. The Tableau Court May Festival will be, of course, the focal main event. But as you know, on a small but ever-growing scale, I hope we will see May festivals appearing all over the country in every chapter. So I'm quite sure that the importance of Tableau Court as a focal point of our whole movement in the UK will become clearer and clearer through that first May festival. All of us will begin to grasp more and more as our understanding unfolds. So this May festival has to in the message which it is putting out be in advance of everything else in our society in Great Britain. Something that is beyond and ahead of everything. This shouldn't be difficult, because what the message will be in the end, of course, the message of the ultimate truth of life, which Nichiren Buddhism reveals. That will be the message. So this event, or this series of events in May, will be in the spirit of that slogan we had at our summer courses this year. In other words, everyone, member or non-member, who is in one way or another involved, will feel a fresh spirit arising in them. Will feel, and through that will begin to develop some sort of fresh advance. In the case of us, encouraging ourselves, that will be considerable. In case of members of the public, it may be less obvious. But nevertheless, I want to see, and I'm sure you do too, that anyone who comes to those May festivals, to any of the events which make them up, will be a different person, even in the smallest way, from then onwards. So certainly everyone who visits Taproot Court must feel this. And I hope everyone who goes to a chapter event, whatever it may be, however the members of that chapter may devise it, will feel the same. A fresh, creative spirit, a determination for the future, confidence in the future, hope in the future, joy because of that. So I don't want to go today, it's not the time to do it, into all the events we'll put up. But certainly, so far, we will tap the cultural, artistic abilities of all our members in creating this whole series, so far as the Taproot Court Festival is concerned, a whole series of events which will take place, say, over a period of a fortnight. Not, of course, all at Taproot Court, but in other venues, not so far distant maybe, and they'll all be linked together under this slogan, and each one this theme, and each one will give the opportunity for our members to express their full potential in whatever way is particular to them. So, though it'll only be a first step, the May Festival in 1990, it will seem small, but I believe that the effect of them will escalate steadily each year as our membership grows and as our understanding deepens. And of course, it will not be only through the artists that perform or whatever. It will not be only through them, but also through the opportunity for the public to meet the members, whether they're doing VCG or Lila, or selling books or programs, or whatever it may be. This is crucially important. Of course, Alice, the musical we put on in 1986-87, was an experiment in a sense. It was an achievement. But the interesting point is that what so impressed people, apart from the actual show itself, which was fantastic, what impressed them was meeting our lives, our VCTs, finding something that was strong, and so on. Seeing members still cleaning down the corridor in the theatre. And it was that spirit that they felt. So through these various events, I hope we should be able to expand that. So at the same time, of course, we'll be emphasizing the thread, though it may not be consciously understood, the thread of eternal life, which runs through everything. The principle of Buddhism, which is the past, present, and future are one, through the law of cause and effect. What I mean by that is that the wonder, or in a sense, you could say the magic of Tapu Kof as a center point or focal point, is that you have there before your very eyes past, the present, and the future. They're linked. I believe this understanding is very important. Of course, it also involves the understanding of the eternity of life. But even in a more surface view, human beings feel comfortable, sort of safe, when there is an element of the past in whatever is being planned for the future. If that isn't there, they're frightened, in a sense. They fear. It's like being dropped into the deep end of a swimming pool when you don't know how to swim. But when there is an element of the past blended with the present and the future, it's comfortable, it's meaningful, it's sort of secure. And this we can do most perfectly at Tapu Kof. So as you know, we've had another series of open days recently. Hundreds of people have come. It's just remarkable. As you know, for the first lot of open days in June, more than 5,000 people came. This year, they're coming in their hundreds now, on each afternoon. And it's very uplifting, because they're uplifted. They're happy. They laugh and they chatter, and they look relaxed and calm, not agitated, not hurried, taking everything in. It's very, very beautiful to watch. Most wonderful days they are. And although I don't see much of it because I'm working in my office, but if I pop out for 10 minutes, I come back feeling so great, merely by their spirit. So this is, an amazing thing. And that gives an understanding of the significance of Tapu Kof. And of course, in the process, they also see, in a sense, our trust and friendship and unity, though we may come from all sorts of different cultural backgrounds. They have it before their eyes. This is wonderful too, and a very important part of that process of opening people's lives to the world. So it's there within our membership. So we've also chosen a slogan for the festival, which is taken from the beautiful, stirring poems which Sensei composed for the opening and the ending of his lecture in Paris, which was held at the Institute of Fine Arts. And in that, he said 3 words of joy, advancement, youth, and promise. So the slogan for this festival is to be that. In other words, it is an expression of the voyage of the spirit and the voyage of life, which we and the increasing number of people will undertake. Joy, advancement, youth, and promise. So I can't help feeling that this is going to be an exhilarating event. And I'm already excited about it. And I hope that you'll get increasingly excited about it as the time approaches. Okay, on we go. Everyone meet challenges and advance victoriously in such a tumultuous age? The answer to this question can be learned only from history. A person who understands the past would result that the European world was brought to a deadlock. At this time, there was one country that, employing a new line of thinking, sought to open a new route of passage to the East. If the land route cannot be used, then why don't we open a sea route? We will definitely pave a new way to the East. It was Portugal that sought thus to open the way to a new age. Such a turn of thinking in itself is a sign of the powers of the intellect. It might well be called a victory of initiative. It was a noble response to a challenge in history. A person who possesses rich wisdom and new perspectives will be able to break through and overcome any difficulty. The mystic law is the source of such wisdom and initiative. I hope you will be confident that there is no difficulty that we cannot break there is no difficulty that we cannot break through with the mystic law, and no deadlock that cannot be resolved.
Right. So Sensei is giving the answer there to the first part of that paragraph that Ben read. How can one meet challenges and advance victoriously in such a tumultuous age? So I think it speaks for itself. And the important thing is, of course, that we need many, many other people to be able to use the weapon, the mystic law, in order to challenge the future. This is the purpose, getting to know more and more people and penetrating deeper and deeper into society. Okay, then? The idea of opening a new route came from the resource-poor, tiny country of Portugal, located on the western flank of the Iberian Peninsula, the westernmost region of the European continent. It is said that at the time, Portugal had a population of approximately 2 million. How was it possible that this country could have grown to be a great imperial power with territories throughout the world? Again, what was it that propelled Portugal to be the victor of the seas and the victor of the age? As it turned out, a youth was one of the principal forces behind Portugal's ascendance. This one person's determination, perseverance, and actions led his country to venture onto a new stage in the history of humanity. The person to whom I refer was Prince Henry the Navigator, 1394 to 1460. It is a mistake to suppose that the presence of many people ensures that great things can be achieved. On the contrary, a single person who towers above others will change the course of history and open a new stage. This principle is something that I have talked about on many occasions. It is very easy to tell others to stand alone, but unless one actually stands alone, the words are devoid of meaning and value. In fact, there is no need to talk about standing alone. When you stand alone and take action, others will definitely follow. At first 2 or 3, and eventually a great surging tide of people will stand up in your footsteps. How about that? So, of course, Sensei is now bringing this back to the individual, where everything begins. Kosen Rufu, in the end, is achieved by the individual, by each one of us. Standing alone on our own particular path of life. Things like May festivals, Alice, concerts, country fairs, meetings, general meetings, they are to draw us in together where we can encourage each other. But in the end, the whole purpose is that we should leave those events refreshed and stronger in order to go out onto our own path of life and do conservation. Isn't it? That is where we do shakabuku, or introduce teachings to others. That is where we can bring about change for the benefit of everybody around us. That is where someone in an unhappy office, through
their practice, their determination, and their wisdom and compassion, and change the whole scene. In families, the same can happen. So the move of the Kosen Rufu is this rhythm, coming together and parting. You come together here in order to refresh yourselves, give yourselves new impetus and determination to maybe advance your lives. Then we part and go our own way, standing alone. So it wouldn't surprise anyone, therefore, that standing alone, this principle of standing alone, is the very essence of the master and disciple relationship. And it's what makes the master and disciple relationship in Nichiren Buddhism totally different to any other form of master and disciple relation that one's ever heard about. Standing alone. What a strange thing. But that should be the essence of it. So the master and disciple relationship in Nichiren Daishonin's Buddhism is a fact that we have to do Kosen Rufu in our own daily lives, on our own part of life. Therefore, we imbibe or digest everything that the master can teach based on his experience of the application of Nichiren Daishonin's teachings to life. We absorb it. And then, on our own, we can draw that forth again to suit our own particular circumstances and bring about change for the better in our particular field. Follow. So the disciple listens, reads, and absorbs. He also chants Dharma. All that guidance enters into us and mixes with our Buddha wisdom, our universal wisdom. And then we can draw it forth at will to any particular occasion or circumstance in our own particular field of activity. You follow? So this is nothing like any other form of master-disciple relationship that one can imagine. The master doesn't direct one in one's own field. It would be pointless. How can he be an expert in yours or my field? This is perhaps what's gone wrong with many other forms of master and disciple relationship. Their total inflexibility, where the disciple just followed in the footsteps of the master, or as it were, sat under his umbrella all the time. The move of Kosen Rufu is so hard going. So this is the way it works. So this is not always difficult for people in the West to understand, this master and disciple relationship. But that's what it is. The disciple, we have to stand alone and do the job, because no one else really has the knowledge and understanding of it except us. And furthermore, we have the wisdom of Buddhahood within our life. So there's no reason why we shouldn't do it. And we work and move in harmony through the guidance of the master. So in Peru, the Peruvian district leader will bring forth from his life a way of doing things that are totally different to what you may be doing in Peckham Rye or Leeds. That's the wonder of it. And it's because, of course, the power of the practice, the power of the gods in our lives that enables us to happen. It's really wonderful. So Itai Doshin is achieved standing alone. This is another paradox. Buddhist unity is achieved amongst people standing alone. It sounds mad. but it is, because we chant Daimoku. Therefore, through chanting Daimoku, we're as it were on the Buddha wavelength, whether we're in the north or south or east or west, whether we live in South America, North America, Asia, Europe, and so on, we're on the same wavelength. Buddhist unity equals Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. It's nothing like the unity of anything else, nothing like the unity of a football team, or even in the ghost show about Buddhist unity, King Wu of Chu and his 700 men. That was an example of what can be achieved by unity. The unity of Nichiren Buddhism and his disciples equals Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. When Sensei was ill 2 or 3 years ago, he could see or talk to very few people. And I remember him saying at that time, really, we don't have to meet. We don't have to see each other. Strictly speaking. We're chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. We should be moving in unity anyway. That's what he meant. We love to see each other. You love to be here, and it's great. No one's saying we shouldn't. But it's possible even without. Because we share the Buddhist state of life. You go there.
Prince Henry was the third son of John I of Portugal. Coming into contact with the Islamic culture of Northern Africa at the young age of 21, he no doubt perceived the vastness of the world and could sense that a new age was approaching. He determined to build the strength of his country by opening a new path to the east. A person who opens his heart to an unknown world and who listens to what others have to say is strong. Such a person will always be able to realize new growth and advancement. In contrast, if a person arrogantly supposes that he does not need to listen to others' views or becomes complacent with his present condition, he will cease to grow and his vigor will wane. This prince, who cherished the fervent wish to build a greater Portugal, first of all abandoned the luxurious lifestyle that was his as a prince. It may well have been possible for him to indolently while away his time amid the gaiety and luxury of palace life. Yet he left the palace with courage and proceeded towards realizing his objective. A youth can clearly perceive that, however pleasant and flowery such a way of life is, after all, let's do that again. A youth can clearly perceive that, however pleasant and flowery such a way of life is, after all,
it's another mistype, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is after all. It is after all. Empty meaningless.
Margaret on the Cape of St. Vincent is located at the southwestern tip of the Iberian Peninsula. It is an inhospitable place from which one can see nothing but the tempestuous waves of the Atlantic Ocean. To this cape, the prince went to establish the first school of navigation in the world. No doubt in his heart, the prince was thinking, we have to start with education to build a foundation. We'll proceed patiently and with assurance. I can imagine how he must have felt.
So the story goes on, and there it becomes apparent that Prince Henry was not only educating people in the technicalities of navigation, but he was also educating them in his spirit. That is the important point of this example. Through having these selected people to this school of navigation, he could inspire with his spirit. This is the point. I can't overemphasize how unbelievably this important this is. Our task in the future is to educate people in our spirit. That is what all our activities and events, such as the May Festival, will be for. But more important still, That is what our discussion meetings are for. Is this understood? I'm not so sure. Then why isn't everyone going? And you can see the reason for it. They're so important. That's why it worries me so desperately that people are not going. They're delaying, of course, their own advance in terms of the human revolution. They're giving in to their negative state of life. It's the battle to go to a discussion meeting, no matter what, which advances and accelerates one's human revolution and therefore one's fulfillment and happiness. I learned this early in my practice, and I worry so much. It takes so much time to get through. But of course, that's talking from the individual point of view. But from the point of view of the creation of a better world, the discussion meeting is so important. Not only for the individual member to go, but for the great and wonderful meeting that you can create out of that group of people who sincerely, with their whole hearts, come of the dialogue and desire to help other people to become happy. So, in a way, it's the discussion meeting is far more important than any such event as the May Festival. We use the May Festival to bring people to such. So I really beg you, as a team, as it were, as a great group of friends who come here to PRES, again I need to beg you to really encourage people, everybody, because they can all contribute something to that discussion meeting. So this is part of the voyage of the spirit in the future. In a sense, you could say that the monthly discussion meeting is, a port of call on that voyage, where we can stop and have to take in certain essential supplies and nutriment to voyage on. So the more we can get, the more people we can get to join in this voyage of life, you can see better. And we do it through our discussion meetings more than anything else. I can't overemphasize their importance. So just to conclude, I want to move over to your page 9, second paragraph. Then you read it.
Another difference has to do with whether or not one returns to his point of departure. It is likely that there were many sailors who reached the Americas or India, drifting there almost by accident. However, these people had no way of communicating their circumstances to their homelands. Merely going out and never returning is no different from drifting. Only when one returns to the country that was his starting point after reaching one's destination, thus benefiting both lands, does his journey qualify as a voyage. The same principle applies to all of you who are pursuing a voyage on the high seas of society based on faith. If you neglect to return from your journeys out into the world, to the homeland of faith and the Soka Gakkai, you will be a drifter in life and in society. You should never allow this to happen. It becomes all the more vital that you bear this in mind for higher position and status in society.
So I wanted to end on this note because it's such an important point. And it's perhaps more important after 10 or 15 or 20 years practice than it is when you're in the first years of practice. The Japanese have an expression, drunk with benefits. But it's a very good one. There, of course, they have people who've practiced 20, 30, even 40 years. Their lives filled with so much good fortune. Their families happy, and everything in the world seems rosy. That's when the devil can attack. When one is becoming softer. Likewise, people can gain incredible fame and fortune through this practice. They can become rich. That's their wish. Presidents of great companies. How many members of Sadgata are presidents of companies? Incredible number. Or they can become famous film stars, singers. We had the other day at Tap Record, we had a call. I didn't meet him, unfortunately, from, what's his name? Mizufune, the man who played the part of the Shogun. Toshiro. He popped in to say hello. He's a welcome. Gave him his wife. Now, it's these are the times. I can think of few people, unfortunately now, in NSUK who have fallen or are falling into this trap. Such a shame. But I can also think of wonderful examples in Japan where people have practiced for so much longer, where you see people who are presidents of companies or banks or whatever, still acting as a group leader, district leader, or perhaps a study lecturer, and so on, or a guidance, or they have guidance chiefs, rushing. They have a tradition of getting as fast as possible to anyone who's in difficulties and so on. This is great. Or you find that the car that's come to meet you at the station is being driven by someone, one of them who I met had a company that employed something like 3,000 or 4,000 people. That's so wonderful, isn't it? Still serving the gods to the best of their ability. So I wanted to end on this note because it's so important that we watch out for the subtle attacks of the devil in these ways. And of course, the other reason it's essential to return from time to time from that journey to base is that so much is happening to our lives which could easily mislead us. Things like Sanshashima, changing karma, the human revolution, the devil of the sixth heaven can get at us. We need to mix again with our friends and our members so they can say to us, can't you see? Sometimes it hurts a bit when they're honest with us, but it's so important. So again, I would ask you as a group to remember this, not so much now, something to remember in the future. Am I getting that there? To cross-question oneself, check oneself, especially as one's benefits grow. Of course, not everyone wants to be rich. Not everyone wants to be famous. That's lucky. That's really lucky.